My lord, report. The feeble lesser races continue to throw themselves at our ship. Their pathetic attacks render no damage. Lesser creatures, you figure they would at least end their miserable life with some measure of dignity. But then again, they truly are lesser. With the might of our world engine, our dynasty shall be known far and wide. These pitiful creatures that infest our galaxy shall meet their end. By the grace of the Neokars dynasty, they shall by the Silent King. What? Alright boys, stop smashing shit! For the Emperor! What the fuck? Alright, Xenos fuckboy, prepare to get fisted!
Carter Daddy. What? Salutations Rangers, General Bradley 101 back at you again with some more lore. And today's video, boys and gals, we'll be taking a look at the Sons of Dawn who went straight to hell and dragged the whole Necron Dynasty with them. As today we're talking about the Astral Knights and the destruction of the World Engine. Warhammer 40k's Death Stars, BTW, and yes, there are multiple. So strap on in and do all that YouTube stuff as we begin our story by finding out how was the World Engine born and who were its parents. So first we need to talk about its name. The World Engine is not what the Necrons called it. The World Engine is what the Imperium dubbed it, because it was an engine of war the size of a world. It was originally the home world and the tomb world of the Neokars dynasty of the Necron tier, which was known to them by its actual name as Boris. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, Boris nearly killed everyone in the Imperium. Interpret that however you wish. However, after the Necron tier went into the Necrons, the great big war in heaven, the fight against the Catan, and then the great sleep placed in by the Silent King himself, the Neokars dynasty was quite content with just waiting out for everything. They didn't really want to get on the jump, they were chill and they were calm. That was until its current ruling Pharaoh was then murked by one of his underling nobles, who then subsumed control and decided, you know what, we could use some more real estate. And there's plenty of real estate there. Just happens to be some people living on it, but it's fine. They're lesser races, it'll be alright. So he decided, time to expand. Problem was, the Neokars dynasty was pretty small and insignificant. It was a really minor noble house. They only had the one tomb world. So bro decided, if I can't take my tomb world to them, then I'm gonna make my tomb world go to them. So they then spent God Almighty knows how many resources and how many years or however long it takes for them to have specific details, but he transformed the tomb world into a living combat engine. Armored it to hell and back. They took the already established nature of the planet, its physical features, and then literally coated it Necron living metal or something. We don't really know exactly how, it's not really specific, but we do have records of it being made from a living world, that being the world of Boris, and also it having constructed features. So it could be that they just made cities made out of living metal and just stuck engines on it and sent it forward into the fight, or they literally built it from scratch, or it was half made, but you know, that's just semantics at that point. It was a big fuck off world, it was covered in artificial shit, and it had a fuck ton of guns, specifically macro Gauss projectors. Now, a Gauss weaponry is a terrible bit of bad news. It essentially causes a molecular degeneration. It's the old school, old-fashioned sci-fi projector beam. You know, point it, shoot, you get evaporated into your medical particles. But 40k version, so somehow it's even more fucked up. And whereas normally these things are mounted on vehicles as heavy weapons or carried by the standard infantry as primary arms, here in this case we have these big, chunky, heavy-duty orbital gun artillery pieces, capable of rendering a planet asunder. No, literally. As at the very center of the equator, right in the middle of the planet, is the biggest Gauss projector that the Imperium had ever seen. Literally, the Death Star from Star Wars, capable of committing an Alderaan to every single Imperium planet it came across. And it did indeed commit several Alderaans. But the reason why the Imperium decreed that this son of a bitch was such of high importance was because the sheer amount of weaponry on the thing rendered at a single target could utterly destroy a planet. And it did destroy a few planets before it made its way to Safehold, which would be its final resting place. But we'll get to that later. Needless to say, the Neokars dynasty decided they were going to wield their big stick with all the might of an angry Necron with a whole dream of ambition and not that much in terms of quality. As whatever planets wouldn't surrender to them, they would just outright destroy. And considering that, to my knowledge, no planet surrendered to them and a lot of planets were destroyed, it means that the whole idea of reclaiming space and building a mini-empire didn't really work. I mean, you can't really hold the mini-aura planet if it's kind of blown up, but again, Necrons, man, weird shit. But it wasn't just the Gauss projectors that you had to worry about. Stationed on the true world itself was the literal entire military might of the Necron Dynasty. Now, we don't know exactly again how much it is there, but generally speaking, a dynasty can command several tens of thousands of Necron warriors, which remember, Necron warriors were actually civilians, and the actual warriors became Necron immortals, or the household god. So, I think it's safe to say tens of thousands of Necron warriors, as well as Necrons who are piloting, manufacturing the goods on it, ammunition, weapons, maintenance, engineers, etc. Maybe 1,000 or so immortal, a couple of hundred immortals, depends. We don't really know again. Maybe some canoptic stuff. Again, there is no concrete numbers, but it's a tomb world, so there's a lot of shit on there. What we do have a concrete number, though, is that the Necron Dynasty did possess a formidable air force, as the world engine was defended by no less than 500 combination of both Doom Scythes and Night Scythes, heavy fighters and attack fighters. Meaning that not only did you have to get through a barrage of artillery, you also had to get through the hundreds of fighters defending it. And the artillery wasn't the only thing that was defending it. You see, while it had the big chunky Gauss projectors for the heavy-duty main hitting power, it had several other wild, wacky Necron tier weapons. Such was its defensive shield. Now, this was a weird defensive scream. It didn't really look like a voyage or anything. Instead, it was this weird swirling storm of silver metallic energy. And its whole point was that not only could it deflect incoming attacks, its main thing was that it fucked with electronics, as well as targeting and homing teleportation fields. It created this weird no-no square that prevented any type of reconnaissance, and it means that you couldn't lock onto it. So you couldn't get any drop pods or teleportations installed. It kept you from seeing what the fuck was going on, and it kept you from getting in there. It's pretty annoying, as we'll find out later. In addition to its other weird and wacky components, it had gravity cannons. And not like the grav weapon of the Imperium, where it literally shoots out a ball of gravitic energy, literal guns that you point at something, you press click, and it changes the gravity around the area. Meaning that a ship could be in the void of space, but then all of a sudden, it'll be enveloped in a gravity field. And that gravity field is about 12,000 times more normal than it should be, meaning that that big fancy ship just got scrunched down like an empty tin can of baked beans. Or they could do the opposite, as they could induce gravity inside of it, literally tearing it apart like a piece of paper. But if gravity ain't really your cup of tea, how about teleportation? Because remember, while you can't use teleportation on the world engine, that doesn't mean the world engine can't use teleportation on you, because fuck you and fuck everything about you. These teleportation arrays could take objects such as a big fuck off rock in space and literally materialize it either on top of the ship within its void shields, or literally materialize it within the ship. So you could be chillin', planning, on your bridge, having a cup of coffee, then all of a fucking sudden, boom, rock motherfucker, just an asteroid inside your ship. The bridge is gone, everyone is fucking dead, and the Necron is sitting laughing their molasses off because Lamau, the monkey, got crushed by a fucking rock. Haha, funny. Necron tech is fucking wild. It would be so fucking hilarious if it wasn't just how fucking unfair it was. And the final note is that this was a artificial tomb world, meaning that it could produce its own things. So, in essence, it was literally immortal. Necrons would never die out, they always had the tomb world to rebuild any spare parts or get more people, and if they didn't need anything else, well, you have a planet killing weapons, so people do what you want or their planet gets killed. All in all, it was a big trouble for the Imperium. And while the Necron Dynasty wasn't really increasing its territory, it was definitely removing the Imperiums. So the Imperium decided it needed to do something, and sent out a request for many different Space Marine chapters to answer. And one of the many chapters who would answer would be the heroes of our story. And I think it's about time now that we learn more about these chaps. Who exactly are the Astral Knights? The Astral Knights are space marines that are descended from the genetic legacy of the Primarch Rogel Dawn and the Imperium Fists. However, we don't know what date they were founded or when their founding was, but given everything that we know about them, I think it's safe to say they were a relatively old founding, definitely not a recent founding, as they were said to have many honor rolls and deeds and be very, obsessed with honor. So we could probably say that they were about at least a few foundings old. But then again, that's really just speculation. They were founded on their homeworld of Obsidia. Like the name suggests, it was not home to volcanic glass, but rather a different type of crystal. Crystals became a central part of element within the Astral Knights as their homeworld was littered with it. But the reason why Obsidia was named, so called, was because of these natural geographic formations. The Astral Knights truly embodied the name. They were knights in every sense of the word. They were dour, even for Roald Dahl's boys. They were very much, we have shit to do, let's get it done. But they did embody the idea of a knight. They believed in honor above all else. An honor not only for themselves in their chapter and the sense of glory, but also honor in their duty to protect the Imperium. The Scions of Roald Dahl have always had a sense of defense. They are the Imperium's defense. They are the Imperial fists. They defend, they make positions. That's their whole shtick. But then again, the specifics of this were even heightened in the Astral Knights. They are the Imperium's knights. They are the Chevalier Astra, the Knights of Space. Therefore, it is their job and their duty to ensure that the Imperium is safeguarded. They also did have the interesting point of knights as being a little obsessed with personal honor. You see, if two Astral Knights had a spat over something, they would have an honor duel. And this honor duel would be regulated by the chapter master, and they would duel in the traditional style of Roald Dahl's successors. For those who don't know, Roald Dahl's boys have a tradition of fighting amongst each other, with the Feast of Blades being a common tournament that is held in which successors of Roald Dahl come together and they duel with their best champions. Now this is actually an OG thing where the original Imperial Fist Legion did by the use of the Templar Brethren, in which case it would be the best champion within the Legion, or in some cases they would invite other legions, so it kinda kept on. But dueling, very much part of Roald Dahl and his boys. So the fellows would be stripped down to nothing but their undies, and they would draw their special blades with them. Now, each and every chap would have what is known as a soul shard blade, type of longsword. When an initiate graduated from the scout company, and they were given the honor of wearing power armor, the first thing they would do was to venture out into the lands of Obsidia, and they would search the endless plains scattered with the various different gemstones to find a specific type of specialized stone. Now, the entirety of Obsidia were completely riddled with these crystals, but apparently these crystals had the ability to call out to a specific person, and according to the mythos of the Astral Knights, for every single Astral Knight that exists, there is one specific crystal that has existed specifically for him. Now, considering that they are called soul shards, we don't know if they have any psychic stuff, if it's just purely, to be verbose in their rhetoric and colorful and all that, but given how this is 40k, there could be some stuff, maybe. Makes sense if you ask me. But when the chap would find his particular crystal, by the way, these crystals wouldn't be like small things, they'd be like big chunks, because again, you had to hone a blade out of them. He would then take it and then carefully hone it into a razor-sharp blade attached to a hilt, which he also would have handcrafted. Now, according to the Astral Knights, this process of crafting the blade would actually infuse some of the soul of the Astral Knight into the blade itself. Hence, how the term soul shard blade was coined. It is a blade that has a shard of the user's soul in it. Now again, we don't really know if this is literal or it's just poetic, but anyway, back to the loincloth men dueling. So the duel would take place, and before the duel would start, the two champions had to agree on the type of win condition. Usually it would just be first blood. First person to land a blow, simple as it could be third blood, it could be first person to tap out, you could have someone else decide, but you had to come to some sort of agreement. Very, 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 very rarely though, it could be to the death. Now this almost never happened, because in any other case, killing another battle brother would result in exile and excommunication. But even under the guise of an honor duel, if someone were to kill their battle brother, they would be marked forever by a stain on their honor, for they had deemed that their own personal honor was worth the entire life of their brother, and they would be shunned by the rest of the chapter. So needless to say, it really, really, really never happened. Also, side note, if a challenge was thrown down, it would only ever be thrown down in like the most serious of matters. Now granted, they were knights, so what could be a serious matter depended from person to person, but it was only ever thrown down seriously because you could not refuse a challenge. Because if you did, the whole chapter would point and laugh at you and call you a bitch-made little pussy. Not to mention, they had a whole arena, in which case the entire chapter would often watch, and the chapter master would be the ultimate judge, perched on top high of his high elevated theater throne, much like the emperors of old Rome, as the two champions would draw their soul shard blades and they would duel upon a field of gemstones, shining throughout, enamoring both their cloths and their blades with a magnificent light as they clash with each one another, each blow creating a kaleidoscopic cacophony of lights and sounds as the whole arena watches in awe as these two souls clash with one another. And hopefully it ends with only a bit of ruby swirling upon the earth and not a soul shard being shattered by its vaunted brother. But yeah, to sum it up, they're really just knights. Knights in every sense of the word. They love their honor, they love everything about them, and they're very dour. Their whole thing is like, they're knights, they are of a higher echelon, they're space marines, so they need sacrifice, which we'll get onto later. But before we wrap up with this, let's just give you the order of battle. So these are all the fellows that were present to fight at the World Engine, minus a Dreadnought and 30 Battle Brothers, which were still on their home world of Obsidia as garrison troops. So, to start off, we have Chapter Command, which is led by Lord Artur Amarant, the Chapter Master of the Astral Knights. We then have the Reclusiarch, Mysik, as well as the various chaplains, the Chief Librarian Healer, 3 veteran squads clad in artificer armor, an ancient dreadnought known as Caledon, another ancient dreadnought known as Vortas, a Land Raider squadron known as Penitus, a Storm Raven gunship known as Metimus, another Storm Raven gunship known as Docilum, the Lord of the Forge Sarkos, and another tech marine known as Methilim. We have the 2nd Battle Company, led by Captain Palazar, or Captain Gurus, it depends, conflicting sources. 8 tactical squads, 1 assault squad, 1 devastator squad. We have the 3rd Battle Company, led by Captain Suftar, with 6 tactical squads, 2 assault squads, and 2 devastator squads. We have the 4th Battle Company, led by Captain Morhai, 6 tac squads, 2 assault squads, 1 devastator squad. We then have Captain Shirza, the Master of the Fleet, who led the 6th Battle Company, with 8 tactical squads, 2 assault squads, and had First Sergeant Keplash, who is a main character. We then have the 7th Squad, led by Captain Ifrika, with 9 tac squads, and a Lexicanum Daras, which is another named character. We then have the 8th Assault Company, led by Assault Captain Zarhos, with 9 assault squads. We then have the Reserve Devastator Company, led by Devastator Captain Kabari, with Kodizia Valquish, another named character, 8 Devastator squads. And then finally, we have the Scout Company with 7 Scout squads, led by Scout Sergeant Faraji. In addition to this, the entire might of the chapter's fleet would have been sent with them, including their flagship, which is known as the Tempestus. The Tempestus was a battle barge, but moreover, it was a specialized type of battle barge. It was one of the few unique Riser class battle barges, and it's said to be a solid 4,000 years old. Apparently, only 6 of them were ever produced, and there were only 3 others roaming about by the time that the Tempestus made a final charge. Now, what's interesting about these battle barges is that what made them so unique was just how durable they were. They were designed specifically to slam through minefields and asteroid fields and not really give the slightest bit of crap. Their whole point was that their hulls were specifically designed to take physical impact. In addition to this, the void shields were incredibly powerful, and its plasma reactors, which Riser is known for its plasma tech, was said to be able to power them to such a degree that they can shrug off pretty much anything that could be thrown at it, which would prove rather biblical as we get into the next bit. But before I jump into that, appearance. The Astral Knights are primarily a silver color with white and blue accents, and their sigil is 2 white sabers crossed with each one another, which are said to be how their soul shard sabers look upon a field of silver etched in blue. Very nice, very pretty. So we've covered the big bad of the Necrons, we covered the even bigger bads of the Imperium, but now let's take a look at the actual fight that made these Sons of Dawn's true legends. So the year is 926 M41, and the Imperium in the Vidar sector is really in bad shape, as all of a sudden, a giant tomb world is coming through and destroying countless planet after planet after planet after planet. The Necrons are running riot, and the Imperium is really worried, because this big old chunky bastard is tearing through stuff and they can't really seem to stop it. So the Imperium decides that they need to put together a retribution force. Said retribution force is then composed of Astartes elements from 15 separate different chapters, including entire elements of the Imperial Navy that are combined into one massive sector fleet, in addition to countless regiments of Astra Militarum, as well as pretty much anyone else that the Imperium could raise. The Imperium would then meet the Necrons and combat them in the space above the planet of Safehold. However, even with the vast might arrayed before them, the Imperium could not get through, as the Imperium launched over 12 separate different assaults. Now, I'm not saying they attacked at 12 separate times. I mean 12 separate assaults. Meaning that for 12 times, they sent in multiple waves, they kept on going, they had reinforcements, they tried other angles of approach, they used different tactics 12 times. And it showed, as by the end of it, the Imperium had lost over apparently 1 million casualties. In addition to this, the massive fleet that was assembled was reduced by a full third. And the worst part is, the Necrons, they weren't slowing down one bit. Everything was looking very bleak for the Imperium. So to recap, the Imperium had thrown everything and the damn kitchen sink at this son of a bitch 12 times, they'd lost a third of their fleet, over 1 million of their dudes, and the world of Safehold was already ruined beyond measure, not to mention that they had been going off the attack and the attack and the attack. They had been running out of steam, meaning that momentum was going to swing into the Necrons, and the Necrons would soon be launching their own attack on the Imperium. Things were in a dire strait. The Imperium tried everything. Bombarding it from range didn't work, as the defensive measures would simply eradicate the shells or dissipate the plasma before it got anywhere close. Trying to board the damn thing didn't really work, as again, due to its electronic disruptive field, boarding torpedoes and drop pods couldn't lock on, which means they would just fly off course. You couldn't teleport inside of it because it would fuck up the teleportation signature. Any type of missiles or torpedoes that would be sent at it would literally collide into each other. The Imperium tried launching fighter wings, that didn't work. The 500 plus Doom size and Night size kept the skies clear, and you couldn't really do anything. The Imperium was truly at a loss here. They didn't know what to do or how to do it. It seems like the only way to truly destroy this thing was to destroy it from the inside. But how could the Imperium get inside? They couldn't teleport in, nor could they get through the outside. Or so they thought. It was on the dawn of the 13th assault that the remaining battle brothers of the Astral Knights, under command of their chapter master, decided that there was only one way to destroy this, and that was by sacrifice. And who better to sacrifice their lives for the Imperium than the Sons of Dawn? So he loaded up the entirety of the chapter, all 712 remaining battle brothers, with 30 being garrisoned and seemingly the rest being lost during the previous days of combat, onto the battle barge and capital flagship known as the Tempestus. For 12 assaults had the Necrons laughed at the Imperium, decreeing that their world was indomitable, that no one could break their fortress. Chapter Master Artur Amarad simply pointed, looked at him, and said, "Bet." As this motherfucker took a cinder block the size of fucking Connecticut, dropped it on the gas pedal of the motherfucking ship, and put the clutch in 12th gear, and directly gunned that son of a bitch straight at the world engine. The Necrons, seeing this, decided they would just simply blow it out of the sky. However, remember how the Tempestus was a riser class, and how the riser class was designed specifically to be durable as a motherfucker? Well, it turns out that the folks on Riser don't make empty promises. The plasma reactors powering the void shields were jumped up to 11 billion%. Every single blow that came across it bounced off its surface like a goddamn rubber ball of concrete. Night sides, Doom sides, teleportation couldn't do shit, the graviton didn't do shit. It tanked everything. And even when the void shields failed, the sheer fucking girth of the hull of this bastard was so chunky that it plowed straight through the defensive screen and slammed deep into the heart of the artificial tomb world. And lo and behold, when it had stopped shaking, and the venerable battle barge, while still together, horribly wounded and mortally so, Chapter Master Artur Amarat drew his mighty weapon and told his boys to charge for Dawn and the Emperor. And as a tide of giant, angry, muscle-bound, silver-clad knights wielding soul-shard swords, these fellas went charging forward, and they wrecked shop. But this wasn't just a die in a blaze of glory. No. These fellas had a plan. They had identified the specific command nodes and weapon forges, the latter being what made the weapons go boom, and the former being the bastards who directed said weapons. And they continued systematically roving as this massive band of angry bastards, killing and destroying these things. They would kill the Necron nobles who were overseeing the particular thing, they would then strap it with multi-bombs and blow it the fuck up, slowly ripping apart the command structure and defensive and offensive capabilities of the world engine. And they did this for the full 100 hours, basically 4 days straight of unadulterated combat, going across the whole damn world, killing everything that stood in their way. So much so that on the dawn of the 5th and final day, the only people who were left from the 712 brave Astartes who had boarded the ship a few days earlier were the chapter master himself and 5 battle brothers, those named characters who I mentioned earlier. And as a final act of defiance, the last 5 of them, utterly exhausted and wounded beyond all rational doubt, charged forward into the final command bridge. And the chapter master himself detonated his last few melted charges, taking him, the remaining Astral Knights, and most importantly, the would-be Pharaoh of the Necron Dynasty with them, completely destroying the command structure and the void shields of the Tomb World. When the Imperium had saw what had happened, not only had the world engine ceased firing, it was also completely vulnerable. And then with the wrath that could only be born from seeing your loved ones slaughtered, that the Imperium surround the monstrosity and rend it asunder, bit by bit by bit, with ultimately the Imperial Navy launching devastating volleys of cyclonic torpedoes, rending the world asunder. But even then, large chunks of the planet still existed. However, after the battle, the components of the Ultramarines, together with Mechanicus 8, would then scour these completely clean of any and all Necrons. In addition to this, they would recover many bits of valuable technology, but more importantly, the Ultramarines would retrieve the twisted wreckage of the Tempestus, and then place it on the world of Safehold, which was the last victim of the World Engine, in addition to any remaining relics and corpses of the Astral Knights they could find. In addition to the venerable Ultramarines, the noble Blood Angels were also present, both their second and fourth companies. So moved were they by this defiant act and sacrificial act of the Sons of Dawn, that Captain Dotius Aphael of the Second Company proposed that an Imperial Shrine be created, and that the world of Safehold become a shrine world dedicated to the Astral Knights and their mighty sacrifice. For right in front of the wrecked battle barge Tempestus, 772 mighty statues would be raised, one by every Astral Knight that died stopping the World Engine. In addition to this, so moved by the rest of the Astartes that an eternal vigil would be placed upon it, with the first of them being 2 members of the Blood Angels' second battle company, in addition to the 13 other chapters who were present, also giving their own number of battle brothers to form a silent guard to stand vigil over the shrine world, so they would always remember the great sacrifice that the Sons of Dawn had given them. But not only had the Sons of Dawn given them victory, they had given them victory without even asking anything in return. No one ordered them to charge the battle barge. No one told them what to do. No one instructed them they would come out alive. No one coddled them with the truth of the matter. They did nothing of the sort. The Sons of Dawn simply saw that the Imperium was losing, and that they had the ability to make the Imperium win. It didn't matter what they gave, it didn't matter how many of them died. All of them that were present there, and each one of those 772 soul shards that were engraved upon those swords were drawn in unison to charge forward and rend the foe asunder. And so they did, at the cost of their own lives. But then that begs the question, not all of the Space Knights died during that offensive, as there were still those left on Obsidia. So what did happen to the final embers of the mighty fire of the Sons of Dawn? So, in the aftermath of all this, the Imperium had decided that, the Astral Knights were basically dead. Which, to be fair, they kinda were. There were only 30 Battle Brothers left alive. And in addition to this, all the gene seed of the Astral Knights was presumably lost, as while the Mechanicus tried to recover what they could, given the whole nature of the planet exploding and Gauss weaponry, is a fair chance that the progenoid glands were all destroyed. Again, not confirmed, but theorized. Thus, a new chapter was created, that being known as the Sable Swords. They would take over from the vaunted Astral Knights, with their current chapter master, an ancient dreadnought known as Thade, received the envoys of the Sable Swords, led by the First Company Captain Dagon, who visited the world of Obsidia to inform the Astral Knights that they were there to claim stewardship over the monastery and assume the duties of the Astral Knights. Now, this was meant to be a type of, hey, I know it sucks, but we're here to help, don't worry, we're going to make sure that everything is okay. Thade did not see it like this though. He saw it as his proud chapter having to sacrifice everything simply being tossed aside, and he was ready to throw hands. Dagon, being the calm, cool, collected chap that he was and wanting to honor these battle brothers, and also probably realizing that throwing hands with a dreadnought not really the best idea, simply stepped aside and offered them a chance to take a ship of theirs and to go off into a crusade and to do whatever they wanted. He would not fight them, and he would allow them to take whatever they wanted with them. He wanted to honor them, and ultimately their fate would be left unknown. Except it's not. You see, while there is a lot of, oh, they just went forth into the void and we don't know, that's not actually the case. Or it could be. We have conflicting sources here and there, but there is another source that states that the 30 Battle Brothers were incorporated into the First Company, with them becoming a veteran training cadre to maintain and instruct the rest of the Sable Swords. Now, I personally believe that this is the correct theory, and this is the canon that I go with for 2 reasons. One, I can imagine Thade being angry, but seeing how his brothers already died, I don't think he would want his chapter to completely be left behind, and if he just let the Sable Swords do whatever they want, they would do whatever they want. So he would continue to stick with them and to guide them and to show them the ropes. In addition, having a training cadre as well be its own thing makes a lot of sense, so they could teach the fellas what to do. Also, it's not mentioned what the Sable Swords gene seed is, but again, I think the Sons of Dawn, so it's possible any remaining gene seed that the Astral Knights had could have been mixed in with them, and they could create their own unique thing. Also, if you take a look at the Sable Swords, their insignia is pretty similar, isn't it? You would also notice that their color scheme is also somewhat similar. They have a white sword with a silver trim and a black background. Now that is really similar to the Astral Knights. So of the two possible fates, I lean in with the fact that they became a trading cadre and influenced the Sable Swords. Instead of having his chapter forgotten, he's able to mold these Sable Swords into true successors of the Astral Knights, imparting with them their own ways. And who knows, maybe the Sable Swords too bear the Soul Shard blades. Maybe they continue. Maybe they truly are the successors of the Astral Knights, and it'd be rather poetic. The Astral Knights, who gave their lives in everything, in every aspect, completely, wholly, and utterly, were not superseded by the Sable Swords, but rather a new Son of Dawn came forward, a squire raised to a knight trained by his elders, to take the place of the fallen, so that the eternal vigil would always continue. For there will always be a Son of Dawn guarding the Imperium with his mighty saber. Also, PTW, I don't know if they were revived as Primaris. Gilliman apparently did that, so it's possible they did that with Soul Drinkers, so maybe there are indeed Astral Knights about that are Primaris. Did the new Astral Knights receive Primaris update? I don't know. There's a lot of bullshit going on here. I haven't the faintest idea. GW hasn't said anything, and they probably never will, but it's still a cool story, so yeah, fuck it, I don't know, bro. But yeah, ladies and gentlemen, thank you all so very much for watching. That's been the story of the Astral Knights. One of my favorite stories in all of 40k, because it's simple, it's just a bunch of badass space marines doing what badass space marines do, killing motherfuckers and taking names, baby. I hope you really guys enjoyed that. Let me know down below, what do you guys think was the final fate of the Astral Knights? Again, I went with the fact that, you know, it makes sense given how much influence the Sable Swords have from the Astral Knights and how much is copied from them, that they were definitely influenced by Fade and his battle brothers. But let me know down below, what do you guys think about the idea of the Sable Swords being revived, with Thule and the Ross 30 being the first company of a new Primaris, maybe? I mean, who knows? Or do you think it's all just malarkey? I'm interested to hear your thoughts down below. But I want to give you a very big special thank you for watching this video. It does mean the world to me, and a massive thank you to Mr. Thomas Moselons and Mr. Ivan_SBW. Thank you, my dear, beautiful, wonderful men, for your continued patronage and support. Knowing that you guys support me, it does mean the world to me, and as the channel grows and grows, eventually I would love to do this full time, and having channel members means that I have that sweet cushion to fall back on so that I can do this without worrying about paying my bills. So goddamn it, I thank you and I love you all so very much. But remember, you don't gotta do this. Y'all simply watching means the world to me, and I will always love you no matter what. Yes, I will. Mwah. But that has been me. Make sure to do liking, commenting, sharing, subscribing, all the wonderful YouTube stuff down below. But I have been the General Bradley 101. You've been beautiful, awesome, and amazing people. Thank you all so very much for watching. Make sure to stay honorable out there, boys and girls. I will catch y'all next time. Dismiss, Rangers. By the way, I fucked up a lot. I said 712. It is 772. That is how much voice that they had.